Did anyone just get nostalgia? Hello and welcome everyone to the SC Paderborn English Podcast. Well, it's been 829 days. That's over 2 years since our last episode. And honestly, to be honest, I never thought I'd have been saying those words again. But here we are. I'll be bringing you a weekly podcast dedicated to all things Paderborn. And I'll be doing this every week until at least the end of the season. And depending on how it goes, we could stick along for longer. Before we get into the episode, I'd just like to take the time to ask you to rate, review, and subscribe and share the podcast if you enjoy. And thanks for everyone for tuning in. It means a lot. So I understand there'll be a lot of new listeners to the podcast since the last time I did this. So I think it's best to start with a short introduction on who I am and why I do this. And I know there's a lot of questions that people have, so I thought I'd address those straight away before we get into the discussion for today's episode. So essentially, I'm a 19-year-old Paderborn fan from England, which you're probably thinking, how did that happen? But actually, I've been a Paderborn fan for a lot longer than you'd think. I kind of really became a Paderborn fan from birth, and that's not me just a cliche that I was a Paderborn fan from the moment I was born. But really, it was because I have a section of family, and kind of a small section of family that lived in Paderborn and came back to England and then moved back to Paderborn. I'd say like many years ago now, probably before I was even born, to be honest. And then they started their own family in Germany. So really, I used to receive a Paderborn jersey because they're season ticket holders and they go to every home and away game. Really. So yeah, I used to receive a jersey every year for my birthday, which is interesting because my birthday's in July, so it was like the end of the season. So the jerseys were always cheap, and that's, I think, mainly why I got them, because they were sort of discount. So yeah, I had no idea what was going on most of the time, but now, after I'd say probably 10 years of understanding Paderborn since I really understood what was going on. I've lived through most of the crazy years, and I guess it's up to you, to a lot of the German Paderborn fans, and I guess it's up to you if you class me as one of your own. But that's really the story. I live in Northern England, so you can probably tell already that I've got a bit of a Northern British accent, as you could probably tell. So if there's some words that I may say that you don't understand, I just apologise. There's not really much I can do unless I speak German, which I can't really speak that much. And additionally, I want this podcast to be an accessible podcast for everyone. So if there are some topics that I discuss that are quite simple to some fans, or not explained very well, or something like that, I want this podcast to be listened by not just the German Paderborn fan. I want this to be able to be something that a fan in Portland, USA can listen to and understand what I'm on about. So my sort of way of thinking is I'm going to try and be balanced. There's some things that I'll say that might be quite basic, or I'll explain things in a way that the German Paderborn fan will say, "What are you on about? Why are you explaining such simple things?" And fair enough. But I want this podcast to be sort of for everyone, and it might take a bit of time to get that balance, and I might start being very, very basic at the start, and I'll have to transition, and but we'll get there in the end, hopefully, as time goes on. And any feedback would be amazing on how I'm doing with that, and if there's some things you would change, or some things you would maybe explain in this part or whatever, just give me a message, and I'll always take that into consideration. And the other thing I did want to mention, actually, before we begin, is a lot of people have asking me, why did I even start this podcast, or why did I even start the X or Twitter or the Instagram or Facebook? Really, because it was kind of a hobby at the start. I mean, I began it in May 2020, so like mid COVID-19 time, and obviously the Bundesliga was the first big league to return. And obviously, Paderborn were in the Bundesliga at the time. So that's really where it began. It was kind of a hobby, and back then, I was really into like sports journalism and getting into it. Obviously, well, some people may know that didn't happen, but yeah, that was something I really, really wanted to do. And to be honest, I wouldn't say I wasn't a Paderborn fan. I was a Paderborn fan, but I wasn't really that involved, and I wasn't, knowing the ins and outs of everything. So that kind of gave me an excuse to really get my knowledge up on it. And yeah, I would say 5 years later, I think it was a pretty good decision. I've really enjoyed it, and I've met a lot of people and a lot of friends now that I wouldn't have done if I didn't do this. So I appreciate everyone who discusses things with me, and I always enjoy the discussion. So if you ever want to give me a message, I'll always talk Paderborn with you or whatever. And yes, final thing before I get on to the discussion, because I do want to actually talk about Paderborn in today's episode. I need some guests. I would really like to have some guests. I don't want this to just be me, chatting for 20, 25 minutes, just me yapping on about things. I'd like a discussion, a back and forth discussion on different topics. So if you're confident speaking English and you love Paderborn and you have some knowledge and would like to share your opinion, then please get in touch. I really don't mind chatting with you and seeing what you want to talk about. I really want this to be sort of a two-way thing, something for me to share my thoughts, but also other people to share their thoughts, because look, we're not going to agree on everything. And I think if we can get a good range of people to join the podcast, I have a few ideas of some people who I want to invite, who if you're a long time listener, you'll know some of those people. But look, I really want this to be a discussion where we can all get involved. And yeah, I think I'll have a short break because I've been talking for 7 minutes about myself, and let's try and chat about Paderborn in the next section. Okay, welcome back to the SC Paderborn English podcast. I hope that first section was useful for some of the new listeners who aren't sort of knowledgeable about the podcast and why and who I am. I hope it was useful. But if you have any other questions or something that you think about and you'd like to ask me it, then just give me a message. But yeah, the second part of the podcast, I really want to start to discuss Paderborn now and sort of where we are in the season, and I'm sort of looking towards the second half of the season, the Rückrunde. Apologise for some of the German words that I may say that may be completely wrong. It will happen, but again, let me know. I'm trying to improve as well. So yeah, we're now, as I'm recording on the 16th of January, we are back this weekend against Hertha BSC at the Hohenlohe Arena in Paderborn, and we're looking for our first win in 3 matches after the bit of a stumble in December as we headed towards winter break. We lost against Schalke, drew away at Magdeburg, and then lost at home to Karlsruhe in the final match of the first half of the season. So I really wanted to open this discussion up and sort of give my own thoughts very quickly. I don't want this to be a very long podcast, to be honest, because when I am talking, it's a lot of me just talking. So, when we do the discussions and the guests, I would like those podcasts to be a bit more lengthy. And but with these, I just want to have some quick thoughts and so I'll just get my opinion out there and then sort of wrap it up. So yeah, I think I should probably begin on just recapping the first half of the season. So if you are familiar with some of my posts, you'll have seen we've done a few articles, we've done a few tweets, we've done a few Instagram posts about the first half of the season. But I would probably sum it up as a very successful first half of the season. In the first 4 years of Lucas, well, first 4 seasons with Lucas Kwasniok as head coach, we finished 6th in every first half of the season. But this was actually the most points. I think it was second most goals scored or third most goals scored. I think it was second though. Defensively very good. I think it's second best out of the 4 seasons as well. So I think you can say very successfully that We had a good first half of the season. I think you have to look at as well the places we've had to go to. We've been to Köln, we've been to Kaiserslautern, we've been to Hamburg, Dusseldorf, all these places where big stadiums and big atmospheres, and we managed to get mostly positive results in those games. It must be said. So yeah, we've got to host those teams. The start of for the second half of the season. Obviously, we have lost the last 2 home games, so we need to look to improve on that against Hertha at the weekend. But obviously, we have to address the elephant in the room a little bit with Lucas Kozinok's comments. And I don't want to talk about these too much because look, there's been a lot of coverage about it, and I'd say we're past those comments now. We have to move forward, and I think we have in the transfer market. But look, I'm really excited about the 2 players that we brought in so far. I was about to say 3 then, but everything seems to be going quiet about the other one. But yeah, first through the door, Casper Tejo in Belgium. Really, really good young player, it looks like. Initially, I thought he was going to be a left winger because when I was looking at his heat maps for the season, he was sort of playing on the left wing, but he's been brought in as a left-footed right winger. So instantly I thought of Ian Robben. See if we can get similar production out of him as Bayern did with Robben. But no, it's going to definitely help Raphael Aubameyang. I wouldn't say Rafa's had a bad first half of the season at all. I would just say it's probably been something you can maybe get more out of, especially when you look on the other side with Aaron Zenta. So yeah, it'll open up space because it looks like Tero's just going to cut inside every time he gets the ball and get onto his left foot, which should open space up for Aubameyang. The second signing was someone who I am actually quite familiar with this season, Marvin Malem. I actually did go and see him play when he played for Hull, and he was definitely the best player on the pitch for Hull. Anyway, we know what he can do. Look, we know what he can do. He was Darmstadt's best player, I would say, when they went up 2 years ago, from as champions. So yeah, we know what he can do, and I think midfield has been definitely a position in the team where I wouldn't say it's been a weak spot, because I think when you look at the expectations versus the results of Santiago Castañeda, but I think the number 6 next to Castañeda has been a little bit. It's not been nailed down by a single player, to be honest, and it's been one of those positions where if you can get someone who's a very creative player who also tracks back like Melem does, and we've seen it in the friendlies and the highlights of those so far, it looks like a very, 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 very good signing, and I think it possibly could be, when we look back at it, probably the best signing in the Zweite Liga in the winter, because if he can produce the assists and also get the goals and also be just a really, really good player, in general, as that number 6, it could be definitely one of the players that we look back at and say, right, what a signing that was. And then the final sort of position, I could say, I'm hoping we'll find out more about this position in the future. In the next episode, maybe I'll be able to discuss it more. But it's goalkeeper. Of course, we've had many moments this season where we've been in games and then there's been a mistake from a goalkeeper, even Pele Bovnik or Marcus Schubert. But look, we have to. I think with the comments from Lucas Kozinok, obviously, it looks like we will be getting a goalkeeper, very likely. I don't know, I'd probably say 75% yes, we do. 25% no, we don't. I don't know, I'm plucking those numbers out of my head, but it's definitely a position where, maybe the bridges have been burnt too much there, and there's obviously a little bit of, comments between both individuals, which I don't really want to get into in this setting, but yeah, it looked like it was going to be Oliver Christensen from Fiorentina, former Hertha goalkeeper, who played in the Bundesliga, played I think every single game for Hertha in that Bundesliga season, and I think he got a kick rating of 3, which, considering how many goals Hertha conceded, was not bad. So he was seen as sort of a shining light, actually. He played 2 games for Hertha in the Zweite Liga and then got picked up by Fiorentina for 3.8 million. So, you don't become a 3.8 million player and become bad overnight. I mean, it hasn't really worked for him at Fiorentina. He's played a couple of Conference League games, a couple of Serie A games, but not very much football in the last 2 seasons. And it seemed like Paderborn were going to get him on a loan for 5 months with an option to buy, but it seems gone quiet. By the time this is uploaded, he might be a Paderborn player. I don't know, but it seems like there could be some more options which we don't really know about yet, and which I'm sure we'll find out about. But yeah, the winter transfer window seems to be looking pretty good for Benny Weber right now, and I would say that it's been very successful. I would probably give it, if we don't have any other signings, I'd probably give it an A-. Obviously, we do need to see more about Casper Tejo and what he can do, because I don't really know much about him, but we've seen obviously the highlights, and he looks to be a very, very solid attacking player, and another creative option in that attacking section of the pitch. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the second half of the season. Is my main sort of evaluation from this discussion. I think the signings are helping key areas of the team where it's been maybe a weak point versus the other areas, and it'll hopefully help. I think Melem especially will help us sort of add some more dynamism into the midfield and allow us to play a bit more. I wouldn't say we were predictable in the first half of the season, but it very much was. Zenta or Aubameyang, very much they were the two creative players, and I think the third best player in chances created was Cohen Costons, who obviously is a striker. So, and he had like 15, whereas Zenta and Aubameyang had something ridiculous, like 80 chances created between them. So, yeah, need to add some more midfield, and we have done that. So I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, I think we've got more game winners in us now, and another player actually I just want to quickly discuss before I get onto questions and then wrap it up. Felix Platter looks to be back now. When I did my last ever podcast episode, which was 2 years ago, as I've mentioned, we were talking about Platter being injured and how good he was and how annoying it was that he was injured. Now, fast forward a few years and we're talking about him coming back and how much of a spark he could add to the team. But look, if he is on it and he stays fit and he starts putting the ball in the net, this could be a guy who gets 10 goals in the second half of the season. He could be getting a goal a game because the amount of creativity we have, and the ball's whipped in by Zenta and Aubameyang on the wings, and then mail him to Platter. We saw in the highlights of the game against, I think it was Verl or Pilsen, where Platter was really, really good and really creative. So if he can add more creativity as well, but look, we need him to put the ball in the net, because right now I think Bilbia's the top scorer on 5 or 6 goals, and absolutely no disrespect to Bilbia and I guess the whole Paderborn team, but we haven't had a consistent goal scorer in the way that I guess I don't know if you need a consistent goal scorer to get promoted. I think we've seen many times where teams have had a mix of goals, but it seems like we've had games where a different player has shown up and scored. Ilianza against Hanover, Cohen Costons in a few games, Michel at Köln. This is what I'm talking about basically. But if we can have a consistent goal scorer, and I think Platter could be definitely that person, then I wouldn't say we're riding on the promotion mobile, but feels very much like it could be a possibility. But look, we'll see what happens against Hertha. I'll be recording next week after that game, and we'll also discuss Darmstadt and the umbrella town of Darmstadt as well next week. But I'm looking forward to it. Is my final conclusion. And after this short break, we will get onto some questions which have been submitted by a few people, and we'll wrap up the first episode back of the Paderborn podcast in English. Cheers. Welcome back to the SC Paderborn Non-Sieben English podcast. It is the final little section of today's episode, and I just wanted to go through some of the questions which I have received for this podcast. I asked on my Instagram, and I've got quite a few questions here. Now, I'll be honest with you, I haven't planned all for this section, so I'm going to read the question and sort of what the first sort of thought that comes into my head, I'll say it. So hopefully I don't say something stupid. First question, maybe you could talk about some topics like the current developing of Paderborn. Very wide open question here. I could talk about some specific things, but I'll keep it to the youth actually, because I've been very impressed. Obviously, as I began this sort of account podcast, the youth teams in Paderborn weren't very good. I'm not saying they were terrible, but look, a lot of investment has gone into it, and that's something that I've been very impressed with. Obviously, the under-21s team is now, in the Regional League West, which they're doing very well at the moment. They're in mid-table, and last season they survived relegation, and then second, this season they're in mid-table and they're producing very good talents. And I think overall, under-19s teams doing good as well. But yeah, I think a lot of investment has gone into it, and I think that's one of the positives of the current developing. And I think that's been one of the positives of the post-Bundesliga relegation since we've been relegated. That's been one of the positive points. And then I guess I could mention about the overall team. I think the transition from a lot of older legends, Hunemeyer, Tucker. I guess you could say Michel, but Michel's back. But I think the transition from that to a young side now, which is very, very high in potential and got a high ceiling for a lot of players. I think it's working really well. But of course, as you know, we need also, if we want to get promotion, we need players who've got the experience and who've done it. And that's why I think Marvin Mellem is a fantastic signing. But yeah, I think we're getting the mix quite spot on at the moment. Actually, I think it's definitely a good moment in the developing of the club. Now, that doesn't mean I don't think some of the off the field stuff is right, and it could be a whole topic for another day. But the association and things like that, I could definitely have a lot of thoughts about. But no, I'll keep it on the pitch now for now, and that's sort of my thoughts there. Next question: chances and risks of a promotion to the Bundesliga. Now, selfishly, I would love a promotion to the Bundesliga, because I think the account would do very, very well. I think we'd get a lot of followers, and I think we'd get a lot of interactions. But obviously, it does have risk as well. We have seen in some occasions where a team goes up to the Bundesliga, comes straight down, and then suddenly they've gone from a position where they were one of the strongest Zweite Liga teams to a position where they are fighting relegation, as you can see with a specific team in Gelsenkirchen. Yeah, there's obviously risks, but if you would have asked me this question 2 years ago, I would probably be more sceptical about promotion. Obviously, you want promotion as a fan, and you want to play in the best stadiums and in the best league. But I definitely think maybe 2 or 3 years ago we wouldn't have been ready for it. But I think this year, if we get promoted, we've got a lot of young players who will, I think, shine in a Bundesliga environment. I honestly think we wouldn't look out of place. That doesn't mean to say we won't get relegated. I have a hard time seeing us stay up. I think we would give a really good account of ourselves. I think even better than we would have, than we did. In 2019-2020 season. And I think we would set up very well. But look, there's always risks, and I guess we don't know those risks until we see them. But obviously, if we got relegated, we would sell a lot of players, and I think we'd make quite a bit of money. So hopefully, we'll be able to rebound off that. But look, it would take it would need a lot of very good decisions at business level, and obviously, as you've seen with Schalke, if you don't make those decisions correctly, then you're not going to be in a great position. So, yeah, obviously I want to go up, but obviously we know those risks as well. But let's cross that bridge if and when we get to it. Next question: biggest stadium with a question mark. I suppose this could have a whole podcast episode on it, to be honest. But I'll keep it short and sweet. I don't think we need a new stadium. I think obviously there's been quite a bit of development to the Humslux Arena in the last few years, and I don't think a new stadium is on the agenda now or for quite a while. We'll see how the club progresses, and I think it would take 5 seasons, for example, maybe 5 seasons of us being mid-table Bundesliga, pushing the European spots in an hypothetical world. That would what it would probably take for us to maybe do anything to the stadium, in my opinion. let's be honest, sometimes it doesn't sell out, and sometimes it's difficult for it to sell out, and that's just the reality. We need to be a winning team in many seasons to build a fan base, not just in Paderborn, which is obviously what I'm trying to help to do with this account. But yeah, it would need a lot of things to happen and to go right over a period of time for that to happen. Next question: should we have the ambition to be a first division team? I think a lot of people would be a bit skeptical about this and say, "Look, we're Paderborn. We're not a huge club. We're not this and that." But I think we should take inspiration off clubs like Heidenheim, who. Do you think their ambition was really to be a first division club? And when many years ago, I don't think it would have been. But look, you transition to what you're doing on the pitch, and if you do everything right, every day and every transfer and every squad position and every youth game and every youth, if everything goes right in a club and the cog is spinning, and why not? Why not is the answer, I'd say. We can get there. We just have to look at Heidenheim. They're just sort of, we were playing against Heidenheim only a few seasons ago now, and we were, I'd say very close together in terms of the squad and things like that. So, yeah, I think we should have the ambition to be, and I think we should take inspiration off Heidenheim, and why not? is my answer. Next question. Please talk about if you think if Kwasniok is the right coach after him taking the management down. Yeah, this is a very, very difficult topic. I would say that, look, only we know what the outcome will be as we see it, and I don't think we'll be seeing the outcome yet. I think the Casper Tejo and Milam transfers were planned. It seemed very planned and well executed from Benny Weber. We don't know what happens. Obviously, we knew he had a move to Hamburg blocked by the management, and obviously he didn't like that. He sees stagnation in Paderborn, these things, and look, we will have to see. But it's his choice, his words, and he's obviously backing them up, and we have to sort of see and wait to see what happens. But I can absolutely see where he's coming from in some instances, but yeah, in some other instances, I can also sort of challenge those comments, and yeah, we could have a full podcast episode on this, and I'm sure it'll rage on as it goes on. But look, we're about to play against Hertha BSC on Sunday and start the Rückrunde, and that should now be where the focus is. We've got 2 new signings in the door. We've got a fantastic young squad who have shown what they're capable of, and possibly didn't deserve to only just have 28 points in the first half of the season. So, look, let's have a go at it, and that should be, I'd say, where the full focus is at the moment. And final question is actually about me. How can we imagine your life as a Paderborn fan outside of Paderborn? Oh, it's really fun. I can wear my jersey anywhere and no one will have an idea of what it means or what it is. The only time I've ever been sort of spotted and someone's ever said anything to me while I've been wearing it is in Mallorca, which obviously is a German tourist location. And it was a Kaiserslautern fan who was at least 60 years old, and he just laughed at me, pretty much. But he wasn't laughing at me in my face, because I was looking at him, and he pointed to his friends, who I'm guessing were also Kaiserslautern fans. They didn't have a jersey on as well, but yeah, that was funny. I didn't obviously take it bad. I can understand why. But in England, it doesn't really mean anything. Not many people know who we are. But I guess that's what I'm trying to do with this account, and hopefully in the next 5-10 years, a lot more people will know who Paderborn are, and fear us on the pitch. But it's actually quite enjoyable. It's enjoyable going out and not having to care about what jersey you're wearing, which for my other club it's a bit different. Yeah. Well, I think that's everything then for the first episode back. I didn't actually expect it to be this long, but look, this is what I mean. I talk too much sometimes, and yeah, I hope everyone enjoyed. If you could, please take a second to rate, review, and subscribe if you enjoyed. And I'll be back next week, probably around the same time, to recap Hertha and look forward to Darmstadt. 17 games remaining then. It's going to get hot in here. Let's see if Paderborn can get to the Bundesliga. Thanks all for listening. Speak to you soon. Tschüss.